All right, this is Dr. Carney. I'm going to talk to you today about diarrhea. Not something you really want to talk about a lot, but it's something you should always have in the back of your mind, because if you do and you start having some of these problems, or you have problems with your children, or you know people that have infants or kids that have this problem, at least you can give them this recording, share it with them, and maybe help them out. So we're going to talk about diarrhea. And diarrhea, understand, is a symptom. A symptom. It's not a disease. It's a symptom. Now, it can be severe diarrhea and even life-threatening. Medical treatments for diarrhea are often ineffective. I'm not saying they're ineffective all the time. I'm just saying they can be ineffective. And throwing antibiotics at every case of sudden diarrhea is usually what I consider bad medicine. But hey, I'm not the medical doctor. So there you go. But for most short-term cases, I started having diarrhea yesterday or whatever, the use of adsorbent, clay, chlorophyll, and healing magical herbs is what I call them, like okra, clear up toxic diarrhea quickly and easily. That's right. And if it's been going on for a long time, now we have a problem with chronic diarrhea, and that's not a good thing. So the first order of defense against diarrhea is to have two products from Standard Process on hand at all times. They're there. Cholacol 2 and Gastrex. Now, if you need to talk to me, you can call me at 951-760-0798 to order those, or I can send you the link. Sometimes you call, I don't answer, I'm busy. Just leave me a message, say I need the link, I need to order, or if I answer, we'll get it ordered for you. Okay. Now, both products, Cholacol 2 and Gastrex, contain a special type of clay. Gastrex also contains healing herbs, plus extract of duodenal tissue and silica to promote the healing. Yes, promote healing. Gastrex is also a product that is excellent in the short term to heal ulcers, especially in the stomach and the duodenum. So it's good for more than just diarrhea. Cholacol 2 also contains purified bile salts. Now, probably none of this makes any sense when I start talking about bile salts and duodenum and clay and all that, but just listen here closely and take notes. Many people, and this is true, many people are deficient in bile due to years and years and years of poor diet, prescription drugs, gallbladder surgery, and stale, sticky, congested, and even crystallized bile that flows from their liver along the bile ducts and into their gallbladder. Now, this is you, and you will experience most likely nausea, alternating constipation, diarrhea potentially, gallbladder problems, difficulty digesting fats, light-colored stools, and poor absorption of fat-soluble vitamins, with all of the ramifications that go with this type of deficiency. So there you go. So let's talk about something else that you need to listen to more than once. We're going to talk about purified versus refined bile salts. So purified whole bile salts are very different from refined bile salt extracts sold in health food stores. Totally different. Cholacol 2 contains whole bile purified with charcoal. In addition to the bile salts and the clay, it also contains collinsonia root. Yes, and that's another story for another time. Now, this helps prevent hemorrhoids, and collinsonia root is the definitive answer to hemorrhoids, in my opinion, which can occur with bile salt therapy. Now, all bile salt therapy for those who are bile deficient is generally short-term treatment. That's right, short-term. You do not, and I repeat, you do not want your body to become dependent upon supplemental bile. So, for food poisoning, short-term diarrhea, toxic bowel, or other forms of bowel toxicity, especially with light-colored stools, you want to use Cholacol 2 by taking 6 tablets 15 minutes before each meal. 6 tablets of Cholacol 2 before each meal. Now, if you're also having stomach acid burning at the same time, add 2 to 3 gastric capsules a few minutes before each meal. Okay? Now, let's talk about explosive diarrhea in infants and children. For really explosive toxic bowel episodes, I would suggest you use a special Gastrex therapy that can work wonders. Open about 20 gastric capsules into half a glass of water and use a hand blender to make it into a pasty liquid, okay? Then drink that between meals for a day or two to stop almost all problems. This type of therapy can also be used with infants or a short-term basis. Not a long-term, short-term. Food poisoning is not uncommon with infants, and explosive diarrhea can be dangerous to them due to potential dehydration. Because when diarrhea comes on, it just comes out. So that could cause dehydration. Now, naturally, your physician should be consulted with any serious diarrhea in infants. But immediate use of antibiotics is usually, it's a poor therapy. This further damages your gut, the children's gut, and rampant bacteria in the gut is usually not the source of the problem. Even if you use antibiotic therapy, the following herbal therapy in conjunction with acidophilus should be used at the same time. So what you do is you take a handful of Cholacol 2 tablets and a handful of Lactens, Lactenz, which is acidophilus tablets from Standard Process, and you make them into a powder with a seed or coffee grinder. Give your baby half a teaspoon on a little applesauce before each meal until the problem is resolved. Simple as that. And whenever giving your baby antibiotics, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, always use half a teaspoon daily of Lactens ground into a powder as a supplement to help protect your baby's sensitive gut from permanent antibiotic damage. So if you're going to give your baby an antibiotic, why not throw in some Lactens, a supplement, and help protect the baby's sensitive gut from permanent antibiotic damage? So now that we've covered that, let's talk about the causes of chronic diarrhea. So what's causing my chronic diarrhea? All cases of chronic diarrhea in adults or infants and kids must be evaluated by a competent physician. Now, lab tests will probably be needed to rule out inflammatory and infective processes. Stool tests may be needed to investigate worms, parasites, or other microbe problems. And once these, and I have to turn the page here because I'm using my notes, right? I got to tell you that. Once these are ruled out and or treated and eliminated, you need to look at other causes for the diarrhea. If you eliminate those, then look elsewhere. You look at food allergies, you look at prescription drugs, and poor diet, which is a big one, and prime causes of chronic diarrhea. Now, liver and gallbladder problems as well as toxic bowel are also major causes. Liver, gallbladder, toxic bowel, as I've already discussed. Now, in these cases, you may need to use the elimination diet to determine food allergies. So, use a drug handbook to identify prescription drug side effects. And by the way, every household should have one of these handbooks on hand because you need it as reference. And remember that mixing prescriptions or taking multiple prescriptions could in fact induce side effects like diarrhea that may not be listed for the individual drugs you may be taking. Now, once these causes have been checked out, almost everyone would do well to eat a handful of the Mediterranean type diet with no wheat, no gluten, or no milk products for 30 days. No wheat, no gluten, no milk. Now, some people will need to eliminate wheat and gluten for a year. That's right, an entire year. Now, during the first 30 to 45 days, you want to use Cholacol 2, like we talked about, Lactens and Gastrex to stop even stubborn diarrhea. Unless you have a real bile deficiency and your body is not able to make adequate bile, do not use bile supplements like Cholacol-2 for more than 45 days. After 45 days of cleaning up the diet, you have to clean up the diet and the gut, continue with 3 more months of Gastrex and Lacins, both taken 2 per meal. 2 Gastrex, 2 Lacins per meal. Now, if your diarrhea persists, this is chronic diarrhea, remember that a sluggish liver and a sluggish or missing gallbladder can cause long-term fat malabsorption and chronic diarrhea. Now, this will require a liver and gallbladder cleanup and or a flush. So, with that said, let's talk about the liver and gallbladder cleanup. A liver gallbladder cleanup can be accomplished in about 14 days, 2 weeks. For 10 days, what you're going to grate is raw organic beets and mix that with a little flax oil, a good flax oil, and some freshly squeezed lemon juice. What you want to do is you want to eat this mixture throughout the day, consuming a couple of cups daily for the cleanup period. The natural phytochemical betaine found in beets will help normalize your liver and gallbladder function by making your bile less viscous. That means it's not as thick as it was. You want to thin that out. It's like a bad oil filter. If you don't ever change your oil filter in your car, your engine's not going to last that long. And the same with your body. You got to clean it up. And that's why I always like AF beta food, because that cleans it up and it also helps avoid a lot of other diseases. But you take about 15 of those a day. So that's another thing to talk about later. But right now, let's just stay on track here. Now, for tougher cases, you may need to follow the 10-day period with a liver flush by using olive oil, lemon juice, and disodium phosphate. Now, this procedure, let's call it that, usually accomplished over a 2-day period, will initiate a powerful flush of the bile ducts and the gallbladder and remove stale and crystallized bile and maybe even some small gallstones. I'm not going to say it will, but I'm not going to say it won't. So it'll induce some diarrhea, and it may even seem like an odd treatment for someone with chronic diarrhea. But if your diarrhea is caused by a poor liver, a poor gallbladder, and poor bile function, this will really help get the job done. And it's definitely indicated for people who have had their gallbladder removed. Definitely indicated. The harsh reality is that in almost all cases of gallbladder removal, this flush was needed prior to surgery and would most likely have eliminated the need for surgery. Potentially. Even though you may have undergone the symptom treatment of gallbladder removal, the underlying cause of this problem or your problem is still there. Thick, sluggish bile with lots of scale, bile crystals, gravel, and stones in the bile duct and all the way into the liver. So, a good liver flush is definitely a recommendation for most people, regardless of whether they have had gallbladder surgery or they haven't. I highly recommend it routinely for anyone who has had a cholecystomy. God, I can't even say it. Anyway, the gallbladder surgery. Cholecystomy. Anyway, with the liver flush, the underlying cause of the problem is finally being addressed and potentially treated by the person that has it. So if you want to talk to me about that later, that's great. But when all of the therapies discussed here are completed, some people will need to use a betaine product for long-term use. And that would be, like I said, AF beta food by standard process at a dose of 3 to 5 per meal with excellent results. I like to take 5 because anytime I have kind of a upset stomach, let's say, or something's going on down there, it just feels different. I just take 5 to 10 of those. I really do. And within 30 minutes, I'm good. So this will help maintain, this AF beta food will help maintain smooth bile flow with or without a gallbladder, with less chance of sluggish, thick, viscous bile and the resultant poor fat digestion that leads to chronic diarrhea. So I'm Dr. Ivan Carney. If you need to contact me, you can text me at 951-760-0798. That's 951-760-0798. I hope this helps, because all I want to do is help people help themselves. That's it. So, thanks a lot for listening. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.